like we said, our guy Fataport was not rooting for the team that ended up winning, the Kansas City Chiefs. But do we need to address the fact for the people that are watching this on Spotify? I mean, they see our guy Fataport's in a Mahomes jersey over there.
Yeah, so I'll tell the story when I got this. I bought this after Super Bowl 57, and they had it on sale at the local like sports shop that we have here. And as much as like a Broncos fan that I am, and I just like can't stand the Chiefs, like at this rate, he's going to be the best player of all time. And if I can get his jersey now, I may as well have it.
He's like, it's just an investment.
Yeah, I mean, like if he's going to be the best of all time, like no matter what team I like, I could just like frame this and put it on a wall somewhere.
When is the next time Mahomes jersey will be on sale for that price? And for the people listening, it's like, wait, do you want to give us a spin? Do we need like a runway show from our guy Fataport?
I'll show. So I have it on backwards just so you can see the Mahomes on it. But it's just the gray jersey, and it's got the Super Bowl 57 patch on it right there with the classic Chiefs-Eagles colors, because the NFL scripted.
So it looks almost like a Pro Bowl jersey, but it's not a Pro Bowl jersey, right? It's got the Super Bowl patch.
Yeah, but I don't know if they actually, because they don't actually have these gray alternates, but they sell them from like Fanatics and everything. They still sell them as jerseys.
Do they need to consider doing that for the Super Bowl, like special Super Bowl jerseys?
I think that would be cool. Like
get different fits.
When I think of gray, I always think of the Lions, like gray color rush, and how cool those look. I think if the Chiefs had like the same thing and wore like this, I think this is nice.
You could, yeah, and then I mean, you're always looking for something else to sell too, so you could sell the Super Bowl edition jerseys. You could do something good for the Niners. I think it'd be pretty fitting. We're also recording this during the middle of a pretty exciting Thunder Magic game right now. Two of the more exciting young teams in the league. How many guys could you name right now in a Thunder Magic game?
Paulo Banchero.
Oh, okay.
Shy.
SGA, yeah.
SGA.
I feel like there's another one you could probably get too. I feel like there's a couple. There's a couple of Michigan guys that you could get.
Michigan guys?
From back in the day, Final Four run. A couple of Michigan brothers. Franz Wagner. You remember the
I recognize
Bo Wagner?
Yeah.
Both of the Wagner brothers are on the Magic.
On the Magic.
Chet, you know Chet too, right?
Oh yeah, I know Chet. Yeah.
Okay, Chet's on the Thunder.
Yeah.
Two of the more exciting young teams in the league. So curious to see if they're on Fataport's radar at all. This is been a fun one up until this point. The Thunder are starting to pull away though a little bit at the end of the third quarter, and I do think we have the IT issues figured out this week as well too. So hopefully we won't get anything lost. And the boys in the booth are back. We'll just say I don't know how many straws they have left though after we lost the draft stuff from last week. And we'll figure out how we'll redo the draft stuff and get back to you guys, because don't worry, our guy Fataport's not going anywhere. But what did you make of the Super Bowl? We actually watched this game together. Shout out to our guy Billy Buckets. Shout out to a bunch of others as well too. But we got to see this one together. Obviously, it's the Super Bowl, so you're hoping for a good game, and it was close and dramatic. But was it like a memorable game, iconic game? How's this one going to go down?
It's the first half. No one's going to remember for anything. 10-3 at halftime. Like there was a couple of fumbles, like McCaffrey's big fumble. That was a pretty big moment. But other than that, nothing. Oh, and then the Juwan Jennings touchdown pass too. That was pretty sick. But other than that, like those were the only two memorable things that happened in the first half. The third quarter, the Chiefs came out. They scored their first touchdown, and that one was to MVS, I'm pretty sure. And then they kicked the field goal. So nothing really big there. But then the fourth quarter, where the Niners were able to kick 3 field goals, the Chiefs were able to keep it close, took them to overtime. And I think as boring as overtime kind of looked, it'll still be memorable just because of like the game tying drive in the fourth and the game winning drive in the fourth from Mahomes.
Because like you said, in the first half, it looked like we were definitely headed for Rams Patriots.
Yeah, and they said I was so scared of that, dude. There's 10-3 at half. I'm like, holy shit.
And they said it was was it scoreless in the first quarter?
Yeah.
Or like the lowest scoring quarter since that Rams Patriots game.
0-0 into the second.
Yeah. And then the Niners did kick a field goal on the second play of the second quarter. So
Yeah.
they were definitely in position, but still technically the first scoreless first quarter. And I think, like we said, we were watching this together. So there was a point in the first half where I think were we more locked in on going back through the Antonio Brown Twitter feed than we
Oh
were on the
yeah,
actual
we
game.
went like through 3 months of Antonio Brown Twitter posts.
And that's not even a lot for Antonio Brown.
No, it's
That's
not
just
for
like
Antonio
as
Brown.
far
He
as we
tweets
could make it back.
10 times a day.
It took us the whole first half to get through just what he's done this year in like a month and a half worth of tweets. It's I don't know if, are we allowed to recommend Antonio Brown as a follow?
I mean, if you're out there listening to this, hopefully you're over the age of 18.
Yeah.
And then yeah, give it a look.
If you want to follow for the comedic, if you're a mature person and you're not looking for a serious Twitter follow, I think definitely check out the Antonio Brown Twitter feed. But I think even for the Chiefs, a lot, like just in the game in general, too, slow offense. Like they didn't even score their first touchdown until 4 seconds left in the third quarter. So, like we said, the Niners get the ball first, drive right down the field. McCaffrey fumbles on the first drive, and then Chiefs 3-and-out. Niners get the ball back, and then they start to move the ball basically right down the field again. And Trent Williams has 2 back-to-back penalties. Yeah, I think it's like a hold, and then he has a false start on the next play, and they're like 2nd and 20, 3rd and 20. The drive just kind of dies out at that point. So I don't, there's a lot of points obviously we can go through at where they lost the game, but definitely like at the beginning of the game, especially, but going into halftime when it's like 10-3. And again, the Niners are moving the ball up and down the field and they haven't pulled the ball. And then, they haven't pulled away at all in the game. And it's like Mahomes is hanging around. It's like, okay, they're not going to win. This can't be a close game. You can't have a close game with Mahomes in a big moment. And I definitely thought those first couple of drives were, I mean, if McCaffrey's going to fumble and Trent Williams, like those are your best two, like maybe the 2 best players on your offense, like messing up, screwing up drives. And I thought the early game there where they could have turned those early drives into something was, I mean, we'll get into the end too, but I thought just as important.
Yeah, and it just seemed like in the first half the Niners were just shooting themselves in the foot. And you can't really put it on Brock Purdy as much as people have, I've heard. Just like he played a pretty clean game. He had let me scroll up here. 255 passing yards. He was 23 for 38 and a touchdown. Like that's as much as you can ask for out of a guy who's in his second year. Was the last overall pick in his draft class. But yeah, that first half from the Niners side, specifically the first quarter, was just not very exciting.
Yeah, and like we're saying, if your best players are making those mistakes, it's kind of tough to just look at the game and be like, well, what do you do different if you're the Niners? It was like, well, just Christian McCaffrey don't fumble on the 4-yard line, and then Trent Williams kills the drive. And like that first drive, they were in that position in like 4 plays. They had like the 4 plays, they had averaged 11.5 yards a play. And then when they got the ball back before the Trent Williams penalties, it was like Brock Purdy over to the middle to Ayuk, 18 yards right away, moving the ball down the field. So I know, like you said, he was Brock Purdy, generally kind of efficient, didn't turn the ball over as well, which I think was an issue a little bit in the first couple of playoff games, and maybe not so much turnover, but like turnover worthy passes.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, in the Lions game, he has the one completion that bounces off the guy's face mask. But like, if you look at, I think Debo in this game was like 11 targets for 3 catches. And if you go through and look at the passes that Purdy was throwing to Debo, there was like, he just like missed him over the middle a couple times. And there was the one-on-one to McDuffie in the end zone early in the game as well, too, that McDuffie really had covered well. That is, a good risky shot. But again, McDuffie really had it covered. So you did like what you saw from Purdy in this game? You were impressed with his performance?
I think the only miscues were really there was 2 pretty open passes where if he just one was in the end zone on Debo where he overthrew it, which would have been a touchdown. And then
was that the McDuffie one?
No, the McDuffie one was just good defense all around. But there was, I think it was right after that where he was, or this was later in the game where Chris Jones was able to create some pressure and he just kind of had to throw it away. And it was like 4 or 5 yards over the receiver's head in the back of the end zone. Without that pressure, I mean, he probably makes that throw 9 times out of 10. But and then there was another similar overthrow or underthrow, kind of like that. I think this one was more towards the sideline, and I don't remember where in the game this one was at. But other than that, like I didn't see a lot of like mistakes from Purdy, like because people have been saying, "Oh, he's just like a rack merchant." Like 90% of his passes are behind the line of scrimmage. Like he didn't really do that this game. Like he was making those good throws. A lot of those patented like over the middle to Ayuk. We saw that a lot. So I thought it was a clean game overall from Purdy.
And I think you pointed out, you mentioned something that's important to point out with the Purdy conversation is this is his second year. And really it's, his first full year as a starter. He started halfway through last season, played in the playoffs, played in the big moments, but got the full, this was like his first full off season in the offense, first full year with the team. And I feel like because he was a 7th-round pick and because he's taken later in the draft, he doesn't have the pedigree of the higher guys. The clock for the development for those guys can get sped up. So I feel like, dude, were people looking at like, okay, the Niners have a franchise guy with Purdy? Because I feel like there was like, again, the clock with him where people were waiting for him to make a mistake. I know, Sam Darnold is not necessarily going to take over long term there. I know there was probably maybe like 3% of NFL people. I mean, include Sam in some of that. He's got a little bit of Sam Darnold stock laying around as well, too. But, I think it seemed like there was a timeline for Purdy that was quicker than, like you're saying, a guy that was in his second year. And it's like, okay, being in the Super Bowl and having 2 deep playoff runs in 2 seasons like this is pretty impressive for where you're at in this point in your career. And for, again, emerging at the top of the NFC like this in your second year, I feel like, are people valuing the long-term thing that Purdy could bring to the Niners? I mean, what kind of long-term future do they have here with Purdy? Like
I
you're
mean,
saying, he's
with
only the second year.
Purdy, this is extremely impressive for his draft class, like 255th, 256th overall pick. And you've already got people questioning is like, oh, can Brock Purdy win the big game when they need it? And it's like, I was watching the Pat McAfee show the other day, and they had Dan Orlovsky on. I think this was yesterday, the day after. And shout out Dan, he said, if you've already got people questioning whether Brock Purdy can win a Super Bowl for the Niners after being the last pick in his draft class and in his second year of his career, he's already miles ahead of a bunch of quarterbacks and everybody at that position as well. So if you're second year player and you're already questioning whether he can win that type of game or not, there's no question that he's definitely the guy for the Niners going forward, and he's gonna be like he's a name to be talked about because you don't hear that from somebody who gets picked that late unless your name's Tom Brady.
And and I think it's okay to just look at guys in the moment too and be like, okay, Purdy, obviously to land in the Niners is just like quarterback heaven. To be with, a 7th-round pick with Kyle Shanahan, the type of development you're going to get, like it's going to be amazing. But Purdy, I did think in the playoffs and even in this game, some of the throws to Deebo were definitely off. He could have done a little bit better there. But like we're saying, for a second year guy, just in general, the confidence that he showed in the playoff run, I think he is playing, like he is established now as a top quarterback. Like I think if Purdy went to another team, he would be still a good quarterback. And I think maybe last year, earlier in his career, even again, he's only in his second year, but even like his rookie season or just entering the NFL, if he lands in another team, it could be different. But I do think now that Purdy is just a good quarterback, he's kind of fully become that. And again, his second year, I think looking at the NFC, like some of the other guys are young too. I still have a lot of Eagles stock. I think Jalen Hurts, I still think that they're going to be good. The Lions are competitive as well too. But like we're saying, I just think Purdy now is just a good quarterback, regardless. And all good quarterbacks need good systems to, thrive, reach their full potential, all that too. But like if you put Purdy on the Vikings, like I think that's just an upgrade over Kirk Cousins, I think. I think the Vikings are just a better team.
I mean, yeah, I don't know if I would say upgrade, especially when it comes to passing the ball. I think Kirk's like one of the better passers in the NFL. I know he does kind of throw some turnovers a little bit, but he's not
Purdy's
scared to
almost
push the rock down the field.
Purdy was in a Super Bowl and almost in 2. He was almost there last year.
Yeah, but you could argue that Purdy wasn't the reason they got there. With Kirk, is like if they get as far as that, like it's because of Kirk Cousins because they don't run the football.
And even if, the mobility thing for Purdy, it does matter. He can get yards with his legs. That was basically what won him the Detroit game. He didn't really, in the fourth quarter do so much with them. Again, like the big pass he made to Ayuk was off the face mask of the defender. I mean, Kirk Cousins definitely could do that. That's a very Kirk Cousins type pass.
Yeah, I
Right
will
off the
say
face mask.
I will say with Purdy though, like he has so much room for improvement, and like with the coaching staff he's in and how young he is, he's only going to get better. And like God forbid he gets hurt for like something to set him back like that. We're just going to see him become more and more talented with Kyle Shanahan and as many superstars he has to throw the ball to on that offense.
And the contract thing too is the ultimate thing at the end of the day. It's like, okay, they can't move on from Purdy right now. He's like $300,000 a year. He probably makes less than some doctors.
Oh, 100%. There's no way he doesn't.
Let's double check Purdy's salary.
It was like 872,000.
How much does Nancy Pelosi make? Does Nancy Pelosi make more than Brock Purdy? Politicians? I feel like definitely. Maybe not on the books, but how many more what other professions make more than Brock Purdy?
Probably a bunch of lawyers out there are making more. Like big corporate
He's at
lawyers
okay, so he's at a million for the cap hit this year. His rookie. Oh, I guess technically he's in his third season.
Yeah.
Of his contract. So his rookie season, 700K to 800K to $1 million, and then he's at 1.1 million next year.
Yeah.
Okay, so he is in the $1 million range.
He is now. Yeah, this second year of his career, he was sitting at that 870 until after the Super Bowl. Now we're in the 2024 year of his contract. So the cap hit's going to be a little bit bigger, and that's just kind of how they structure those rookie deals. They always kind of offload it to the last couple seasons.
38,000 in dead cap. 19K in dead cap next year.
Yeah, if you're the Niners and like this is the product you're getting out of somebody you're paying just under $1 million a season, there's no reason in hell you should like go out there and pay a quarterback, because not only does that take away how valuable Brock Purdy is while he's under this contract, but then you're going to have contract issues when it comes to paying George Kittle, CMC. You got to pay Debo, you got to pay Ayuk, you got to pay your defense. You now have Chase Young on that defense. You still have Nick Bosa, Fred Warner. Talanoa Hufanga is going to be somebody who's going to get paid later in his career with the way he's playing right now. There's just a lot of people that are going to have to get paid on that team, so you may as well save as much money as you can with a guy like this.
And that's in San Francisco, that's not even a lot of money. He's just making like a good living.
He's probably got like a solid apartment somewhere.
Yeah, like it's like a nice place. It's like a respectable place.
Like you walk in the place and you're like, damn, this is a nice apartment, but you're not like, holy shit, look at this apartment. Like it's just above average. That's all you really need.
He doesn't have like actual wood materials in his apartment, just the finish, like the fake finishes that look really nice.
And it could be worse. He could be Tommy DeVito. He could be still living with his parents as a starting quarterback.
Ooh.
So
he might have been the first couple of years.
Tommy is saving some money doing that, but there's not a lot of money to be made in the rest of his career. So
there's only 8 other guys on the Niners roster right now that are paid less than Purdy. Out of like 60
not
guys.
Not a single one of them is a starter.
No starters. Yeah. Some guys that get in. Jordan Mason. I feel like Jordan Mason had a couple of waiver wire weeks.
3 or 4. Yeah.
Robert Beal. I've definitely heard his name before. D Winters. I'll forever hold a grudge against D Winters for wrecking Michigan in the first half of the college football semifinals for TCU. Oh, Ronnie Bell also. Shout out Ronnie Bell on that Michigan team.
He caught a touchdown this year for the Niners. I remember that.
Oren Burks. Shout out Oren Burks.
He just got a card in Madden. His card's actually pretty good.
In Gibson, the second lowest played payer on the Niners, and was he taking the Kansas City money line in that game? Because he's the guy that lost. Was he the guy that lost the ball on the deep pass?
Was he the safety that just like sat there and stopped? Yeah,
I think Pacheco ended up fumbling.
Fucking understand that. I will never fucking understand that. Okay, and I think I said this before I ended up leaving good old Billy Buckets' house. But
Shut up.
if you're that guy and you're running with the play, and in front of you you've got your defensive back running full sprint, the receiver in front of him running full sprint, still running full sprint as close to the end zone as they get, and your first thought when you see that is to turn around, just fucking stop. Like like what the fuck? What are you doing? If you see that, just play the receiver.
I was gonna just
Like
if you lose the ball, just play the receiver. Yeah,
he's
just
not going to be going full sprint if there's not a play to be had. And even if he is, just to fool you, well, at least you can't say you gave up on the fucking play. Well, turning around and stopping, you gave up on the play, and that's the reason why he caught the fucking ball. If you stick with that, there's no way in hell he catches that double coverage with how close he was on him until those last 5 steps.
yeah, and you have the teammate there as well too. So I mean, big picture, he can make the play for the interception. If you're playing the receiver, if you're both playing the receiver, it's harder for him to
It
obviously.
gives your team a chance to make a play. When you stop, you just
Yeah, you
lose
don't
all
just
of
give
that.
up.
Like your guy in front of you is beat, and you're the final hope, and you just stop running. It's like the same thing against the Lions. Like in the first half, everyone was saying that defense just didn't play with any effort, and then on that play, it just looked like the same old defense.
And that was again Pacheco. That was the drive where Pacheco ended up fumbling. So
Yeah,
they
they
didn't
went 66 yards, ended up fumbling the red zone.
they didn't get it. They didn't get any points on that drive, but that was the only basically the only 50 plus yard drive they had in the game up until the fourth quarter. And remember the touchdown that the Chiefs score in the fourth quarter as well too, or at the end of the third quarter, is off of the other. Is that another Niners fumble? That's the muff punt. That was off the muff punt. So they get the ball and then one play, 16 yards right to MVS again at the end of the third. So the Chiefs don't have a touchdown drive in this game until that last drive of overtime. So what did you make of the Chiefs in this game? Like, I mean, the Mahomes thing, obviously, like you got the jersey on, but how impressive were they in this win?
I mean, their offense wasn't impressive until they had to be, and like when you've got a guy like Mahomes, it's like you know what you're gonna get. Like as soon as you have to do something, they're gonna do something. But their defense, props to their defense. Like Spagnuolo called a great game, in my opinion. Like able to force a fumble on the best running back in the NFL. Nick Bolton had a hell of a play on that. You were able to hold. You made the Niners punt. Let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, the Niners punted 5 times this game. I don't think they did that in a single game this season.
And to start the second half, too, the Niners go 3 straight 3-and-outs, -1 yard, -1 yard, 0 yards, 3 straight punts. The Chiefs, though, like you said, the defense had to clutch up because these are the Chiefs' drives for the game. So they go 6 yards, 10 yards, and then the 66 yards, but the safety just gives up on the play.
Yep.
And then Pacheco fumbles. But -3 yards, and then they go 65 yards for a field goal. So 10-3 at halftime. First drive of the second half, you have the Mahomes interception. And then you go 3-and-out, 9 yards punt, 47-yard field goal, 8 yards in a punt, and then 16 yards for the touchdown off of the muff punt.
Yep.
And then back-to-back long drives. Now the offense kind of, like you said, they clutch up a little bit. 69 yards field goal, 64 yards field goal, and then 75 yards touchdown. But was this a Patrick Mahomes game or was this an Andy Reid game?
It's got to be a Patrick Mahomes game.
Okay.
Because the way that the game was coached all the way up until the fourth quarter, from like an offensive perspective, wasn't great. Like they weren't able to put drives together. The only reason they did is because the defense gave up on the play, and 2, the Niners muffed that punch. So like the only reason they were able to go down the field that far both those times was due to the Niners' mistakes and not their own like success. Yeah, and as soon as you get to the fourth quarter, Mahomes is going to be Mahomes. So I mean, Andy Reid's a great coach. Don't get me wrong, but I definitely would not put this win on the coaching staff. I'd put this win on how well the offense played under pressure.
So you didn't like the play calling through the first 3 quarters?
I mean, it didn't really get him anywhere until the very end. And when they had to go down the field that many times, like you see Travis Kelce's stat line, let me go back up. He's got 9 receptions, 93 yards. Like when they need to go down the field, they're going to put the ball in Kelce's hands, and that's exactly what they did in the fourth quarter.
And Mahomes was obviously brilliant in it. Like you're saying, fourth quarter, have to pull a drive together. He got it done. But it did also seem like at the end of the game they adjusted the offense a little bit too, where like the Lions last week, just time and time again, they're just attacking the underneath stuff. The Niners are just rushing for, dropping everybody back. And I mean, that's just how the Niners play defense. They're doing it basically in this game as well, too. And the Chiefs still kind of weren't really going after that. There was some screen stuff that they were trying to do. Like early in the game, I think the second play they ran was like a screen out to Kelsey, and everybody just swarmed over, made the tackle. Greenlaw was still in the game at that point for the Niners too, which I think was actually a big injury for him. And if you look at a couple of plays that were made, I think, Greenlaw could have been in that spot. Who knows what ends
Rest
up,
in peace. That's our Super Bowl MVP right there.
I know. Should we talk? Do you want to tell him that we voted for Dre Greenlaw quick?
I'll explain. Yeah, if you guys were following my X account during the third and fourth quarter, mainly the fourth quarter, five of us we made it our main mission to where if the Niners won this game, we were gonna do our best to make Dre Greenlaw the Super Bowl MVP. So like I'd estimate between the five of us that voted during that entire fourth quarter, we probably voted for him like 900 times.
You think we got to 1,000?
It was probably close. I mean, like, shout out to the champ. Like, he was over there like for like a half hour straight, just spamming it. Same thing with Nick. Same thing with Billy. I know me and you were sitting there just like spamming the shit out of it every single time. I know you said I think you accidentally voted for Karlaftis a couple times with how fast you were just clicking buttons. In there. Pause. We were doing our best to get that guy what he deserved, because he just went out there and put his Achilles on the line, even though he took 2 steps onto the field and hurt himself.
Do you think the fan vote matters for the Super Bowl MVP? Do you think?
No, not at all. There's no way in hell.
Let's do some quick research and see who votes for the Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, I wonder if they come out with like the breakdown after.
Because they do it for the All-Star game, but they do it for the starters. It's not, for the Super Bowl MVP. Because like we're saying, Greenlaw got 1,000 votes, at least.
Okay, so according to this website, it says a panel of 16 writers and broadcasters contribute to 80% of the total vote, with NFL fans account for the remaining 20%.
So literally nothing.
Yeah, so like we could have voted for Dre Greenlaw like 20,000 times, and there's no way in hell he would have ever won it.
But if Dre Greenlaw wins the fan vote, does that mean he accounts for 20% of the vote? I mean, we could have gotten Dre Greenlaw 20% of the vote.
It got him on the ballot. Just under 20%, because there's no way every NFL fan would have voted for Dre Greenlaw.
And there's no way everybody was voting as many times as we were either.
No. Let's talk about that. If the Niners win this game, who do you think A, wins the fan vote for Super Bowl MVP, and B, like who wins like the vote overall with the writers and broadcasters?
Well, the fan vote, I don't know if the fan vote matters, because we'll see if we can find who won the fan vote. But what my initial guess would be Travis Kelce won the fan vote.
You think so?
I did the Swifties.
I think for the Chiefs, it was either Kelce or Mahomes. Probably Mahomes. If the Niners would have won, my guess for the fan vote would be Juwan Jennings.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, a passing touchdown and 4 for 49 and a touchdown. Like he was the playmaker on the Niners offense. McCaffrey had 155 scrimmage yards, but like when it came to like the necessary plays, like the two touchdowns, Juwan Jennings was accounted for on those.
It doesn't look like they released the vote.
I don't think they ever would. It would just expose themselves, like, because if Kelce did win the fan vote and then Mahomes just gets it anyway, which I'm not saying Mahomes didn't deserve it. He absolutely does. But like the NFL would never like oust themselves as somebody who won't listen to their fans, even though they know they don't listen to their fans.
And Kelce didn't score in this game either, so it's not like the writers were going to vote for Kelce. I don't think he really had the yard.
But he did. I went through and counted on the Chiefs game tying drive and the game winning drive. Kelce had 5 of his 9 receptions just on those 2 drives alone.
Just at the end of the game?
Yeah, just those 2 drives.
Just on the clutch force feed the ball to Kelce drive.
I mean,
which is what they did at the in the Ravens and end of the Bills game.
That's how they got the game tied. They gave it to Kelsey, and he just ran 25 yards down the sideline, got pushed out of bounds by was that Aubrey Thomas? What's his name?
Ambry Thomas?
Ambry Thomas, yeah, who got hurt on that play, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think, or no, that was Brown that pushed him out and got hurt on that
That was
play.
Brown.
Jair Brown?
Yeah.
Who ended up picking off Mahomes, which all of the bets that I ended up cutting from my bet slip for budget purposes, all of them hit. Chase Young sack, Jair Brown interception, and Elijah Mitchell over on the rush yards. All three of them hit.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat as you because my bet this game was Mahomes over 1.5 passing touchdowns, which hit thanks to the overtime drive. But I parlayed that with George Kittle touchdown and George Kittle over 49.5 receiving yards, and he had 2 catches for 4 yards. And his first catch was for 6 yards. So his second catch went for -2.
So it was in the stars for Jawan Jennings to win the MVP because I also had the Deebo Samuel. I had Deebo Samuel. So I ended up with Deebo Samuel over total scrimmage yards, 77.5 total scrimmage yards in a touchdown parlay together. I had Kelsey over a half a rush yard, and they ended up doing 2 runs in this game to Rice. No carries to Kelsey.
Yep.
And then I had McCaffrey first touchdown for McCaffrey to be a receiving touchdown, 5-1. So I ended up hitting that, and that covered me for the night. But
yeah, I was a nice offer, so that was fucking fantastic.
But none of us had McCaffrey and none of us had Jennings, so it made sense that those were the 2 guys that popped off.
Well, I mean, McCaffrey's too easy. Like his touchdown odds are probably like -300.
Yeah, and he ended up with 160 total yards in this game and a touchdown. He's the receiver for the Jennings pass, so he probably wins the MVP for the Niners.
Yeah, 160 yards, leading rusher, leading receiver. Yeah. That's probably who ends up winning it. I think the fan vote would have gone to Jawan Jennings, though.
And I agree with you. I would have gone with Jennings, but that was kind of like, I don't know if you remember that first Chiefs Super Bowl, so the first Chiefs-Niners Super Bowl. Mahomes wins the MVP in that one too as well, but Damian Williams, let me look up the Damian Williams stats from that game.
Okay, yeah, he did break off a big rush in that game, and I don't remember how far, but it's kind of coming to my head. Pause.
And I think he had a couple of touchdowns as well too.
Yeah.
It also looks like there's a couple of Damian Williams. I get probably still the one that's active. 6 teams for Damian Williams. Arizona Cardinals
was one of them. Yep.
17 carries, 104 yards, and a touchdown. 4 carries for 29 yards and a touchdown. So 130 plus yards and 2 touchdowns for Damian Williams.
I mean, yeah, one of the better rushers in Chiefs Super Bowl history. I mean, in this game, Patrick Mahomes had more rushing yards than Isaiah Pacheco, and he had only half his carries.
And Mahomes, I think, scrambling at the end of the game was a big part of why they were able to move the ball down the field, and then checking some of the check down stuff as well too. But outside of the deep pass that he hit to Hardman in this game, he missed a couple of stuff as well, and he'd been doing it all playoffs. I guess it's probably just me. These guys are human. They're gonna miss throws at some point. Like Mahomes is
fuck him. He sucks.
Yeah, he's perfect at the end of the game when you need him to be perfect. So it's hard to criticize him a little bit too much. But I guess maybe if the play calling shifts a little bit more to get Mahomes into some of that underneath stuff, maybe that's where I get what you're saying there with maybe Andy Reid not calling a perfect game. But the end of the game was definitely, he was pulling out all the stops.
Oh yeah.
The 4th down play where I felt like there's just
like the triple option.
On that last drive in overtime, again, basically the only long touchdown drive for the Chiefs in this game, they have to convert that 4th and 1. They also convert a 3rd and 6, and then a 3rd and 1 as well too, where Mahomes has the scramble up the middle that ends up getting him into the red zone. But again, the Niners defense had a chance to get off the field even on that last drive.
Oh, they had all kinds of chances. And that 4th and 1 specifically, like I know that's just like a staple Chiefs play, and they go to that a lot where they have just Mahomes kind of like step up in the pocket a little bit to the side and make it like almost like he's going to fake to Kelsey in the flat and just takes his scramble yards. But Like in that situation, you got to know there's got to be some sort of like running aspect to what this play is going to be with how short
Mhm.
that yardage is on fourth down, and they just don't look like they didn't look like they were prepared for it.
It felt like that play was going to end up being behind the line of scrimmage somehow. I didn't know if they were going to do like the shuffle pass to Kelsey that they do sometimes, or some kind of screen pass, something to Rice. But yeah, they end up basically running like a triple option type play.
Yeah.
And then on the 3rd and 6, so here I took a screenshot of the play on 3rd and 6 because I don't think that this was just specific to this particular play as well too. I think again the Niners kind of play defense in this style and they have good pass rushers, but this is the 3rd and 6 on overtime, in the overtime drive, where the Niners need to get a stop. Sorry to the people that are listening to this on Apple and can't see the visual, but 4 defensive backs are behind the first down line. And I felt like some of the conservative stuff they were doing in this game. Did you like the Niners game plan? I know, like you said, the Chiefs game plan had some questions through the first 3 quarters, but did you see any questions for the Niners at all?
I mean, their defense, like, just their defense stuck up to like what they've been doing the whole season, all the way up until the fourth quarter. So I didn't mind it then, but then they just like I don't know whether to say like they just had poor game planning in the fourth quarter and overtime, or if Mahomes is just Mahomes. Like I don't know what to really put that down to.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, with that third down, how they have 4 or 5 guys right there behind the first down marker. And like at that point, like the Chiefs are notorious for like letting their receivers just find space, plant themselves, and just catch and go to the ground. And like that's exactly what the kind of space they gave them to do and allowed them to do. Is like Kelsey, like he gets probably 80% of his receiving yards every single season by just going off the line of scrimmage, finding whatever open zone there is in the middle of the field, and just stopping. And like when you set yourself up to be able to let them do that, like that's just not something that's going to succeed.
And that's pretty much what they do on that play too. They run the play where it's like the 2 receivers. They don't like set a screen, but they run that route, and then Rice comes in behind him on like the
Yeah.
drag, and then gets the ball. But the reception's 5 yards out. So, but the defensive backs don't, or the receivers don't even have to really do any kind of blocking or anything because the defensive backs are already cleared out for him.
Yeah.
Rice gets the ball underneath. That was really the stop where it was like, okay, they have a chance here. Again, maybe if they get the tackle, it's 4th and 2, they go for it again, run a play, they're gonna keep going. But the drive before that as well, too, where the Niners choose to get the ball first in overtime. There's the new overtime rules as well, too, where now a couple days later, too, we know that the Niners have said that they weren't even prepared for the rules. They weren't aware of what the changes were. And then Shanahan goes down, kicks the field goal. The Chiefs obviously go back down and score a touchdown. So honestly, like ultimately at the end of the day, the new rules don't even necessarily go into play because the Chiefs win that game in the regular season with how the way the scoring works out anyways. But how did you just take the way that they had addressed the overtime?
It's piss poor excuse for losing because like you can't say that like you weren't prepared because you didn't know these. Everyone knew these rules. Every single person in the
Hmm.
NFL knew this new rule, and because of how the new rule is structured, you defer in overtime. You have to defer in overtime
Yeah.
because exactly what this happened. The Chiefs defense got their stop. They forced the Niners to kick a field goal. Now the Chiefs offense has the exact blueprint of what they need to do to win. Like, and they see the offense, and they saw the Niners come out in front of them. They held them to a field goal. Okay, touchdown, we win this game. You want to put yourself in a situation to where you can let your offense know what they need, so you can set up that kind of drive to how you need it. It's what the Chiefs did. They went all the way down the field. They win the Super Bowl. If you're the Niners, you let the Chiefs get the ball first. If it's that situation where they have to kick a field goal, then you know what you need and you can set it up how you need to set it up. And with these rules, there's no way you take the ball first because you know the other team's going to get it. And if you get stopped, you have a greater chance of losing. And that's exactly what happened.
So is the handling the coin toss the problem, or is driving the ball down the field and then getting to the Kansas City 10 and kicking the field goal the problem? Because again, when you put the ball in the Chiefs' hands at that point, it's if they go down and score the touchdown, they win. And they do this. Obviously, it's the same thing if you don't get it, and then at that point, if they kick a field goal too, they win as well. But if you're on the Kansas City 10, it's like, they still need to go 60 plus yards to get into field goal range for Butker still, versus you kick the field goal, then kick off. It's a touchback. They bring the ball to the 25. And at that point, if they want to win the game, you still need to go use 75 yards to score the touchdown. The yardage is still pretty similar. Like, do they just go for the win there and fix the problem?
That's the problem with taking the ball, because if you defer, and then you can make the Chiefs get in that situation where you put yourself into that situation, and now you have a choice if you want to kick it or not. I mean, if you're Dan Campbell, you obviously go for it. There's no way in hell you don't. And like, if you go for it and you miss it, then you're allowing the Chiefs to just have to go 40 yards down the field, kick the field goal, and win the Super Bowl. So like in that,
but it's not just 40 yards though. They're on the 10-yard line.
So
it only brings them out to the 50.
It's about 50 yards. Then you want to probably get to the 40 for Butker, maybe even the 45.
40 still, that's a 60-yard field goal.
I mean, it's Harrison Butker.
And, that's the thing. Butker's good. History. Broke the record twice, but
yeah, like if by making yourself take the ball, you put yourself in that situation. Like I definitely think for them, kicking it was the right idea, but they shouldn't have put themselves into that position to where if you get to the 10-yard line on the other side of the field, when like the Chiefs just went down and they kicked the field goal, you're like, okay, we go for it. We're going to score. Because that's just like what you have to do in that situation. And because they put themselves in a situation to where they had to make a decision, that's why they lost. They should have done the opposite thing.
So you always want to react to the other team then in the overtime scenario.
If you know that you're going to have the chance to get the ball, then that's what you need to do.
So is it different for the regular season then?
Well, yeah, because the regular season overtime rules are still the same, whereas like sudden death, if the first team goes and scores a touchdown, they win the game. So you're always going to want to take the ball. But when you know that like you're still going to get a chance regardless of what the team in front of you does, there's no way you don't defer. It's the same reason in regulation where you defer, because you know you're going to get the ball to end the second half, and then you can score on that and then get it to start the third quarter and go and score again.
Does this game go on Shanahan's resume the same way that like obviously no game will go on his resume the way the Falcons-Patriots game will, the biggest collapse in NFL history, but just in terms of him blowing leads in big games, does this game count to that? Or again, is it just we're all going to remember Mahomes is brilliant. This was just Mahomes' season. Everything Mahomes versus, like, is there lingering Shanahan question marks after this one at all for you?
I don't really think, like, I think it's more on Mahomes just being Mahomes and like him blowing a lead, because like, yeah, they were up 10 points in this game, but against a quarterback who's known for like just being clutch in the situations, like 10 points is nothing. 10 points may as well just be a one-score game when you're playing the Chiefs.
And did you see the post as well too that said in all 3 Super Bowls that they've won, they've been down by 10 points?
Mm-hmm. He's the first quarterback in NFL history for all 3 of his Super Bowls have come when he's been down by 10.
In 3, I was just gonna say, I wonder if Brady's ever done that, because I know Brady's definitely been down. Like they've had the Rams
the
Super Bowl
game, and then the Rams game they were down, but he had what, 7, and he probably only had maybe 3 of those he was down by a good amount at some point. The rest, his team's been up pretty much the whole time, and even like in the games where like they were up and then they lost a lead in like the fourth quarter, it was only always a one-score game. It was never really a big comeback.
Is that more impressive for Brady? That all 7 of the games have been, because he's been in so many Super Bowls that just all of them have been one-score games. I feel like even the ones he's lost have been close, because both of the Giants games came down to dramatic endings. Yep. And then that Eagles game, they had the ball with the chance to win, and he just gets blindside strip sack from the left side.
41-33, I think. Yeah. So that would have been like a touchdown 2-point, which you can say is iffy, but that's still a one-score game in that situation.
Because Mahomes does have the Tampa Bay Super Bowl.
Yep.
Where they did get dominated.
That was what, 31-10?
But 9? Did they get to 9? I don't even think they got
31-10.
To 10. I guess Brady's got the 13-3. Like we said,
that was a really good defensive Bucks team, though.
Yeah,
that defense was crazy.
It was. Their pass rushers. Awesome. The corners were still more. The corners were good this year too for them. Part of the reason they made got to the divisional round, but they were really at the peak of their powers that year. That was, and Brady still pretty much fully cooking it that year. And I mean, Mahomes has like the two of the greatest passes that weren't caught ever in that game. So it's hard to,
Yeah.
I don't think anybody remembers Mahomes necessarily struggling more so than the Chiefs. I mean, it basically forced the direction of where their team is at now. They built like their both their lines up. They fully invested in their offensive line. Tooney was out for this game, which can't be overlooked, was probably part of the reason that Mahomes was running around a lot. But I know the GOAT stuff has been ramped up a little bit, but I mean, Brady is not the only great, like all-time great quarterback as well, too. I feel like there's still like other levels to this stuff. So like how many guys, I guess I don't necessarily know like where you want to rank him, but like, has he passed like even like Peyton Manning to you from an all-time standpoint? He's just clearly number two.
He's clearly number two. I mean, if he wins Super Bowl next year, he's clearly number one.
Oh, he only needs to get to 4? I guess the three-peat though?
Yeah, three-peat, 4 in 6 years. Has never not gone to the AFC Championship game. All 3 of his Super Bowl wins have come when he's down by 10. He has 3 Super Bowl MVPs, 2 regular season MVPs already, and he's only, 26?
So he retires at 28, the greatest quarterback ever?
It's insane. If he does it next year, there's no doubt in my and like props to Brady, like 7 Super Bowls, was in the league for
Shout out
2
to
decades.
The GOAT, but
obviously. But like his time's about to run up if Mahomes is able to do this again.
Well, the problem is the on the field thing, right? Because in the MJ LeBron stuff, there is still the court thing where it's like you can make an argument either way. If you have MJ on the court versus LeBron on the court, the game is, both teams are going to be like both players. The Mahomes impact is just different from Brady. The mobility thing, the extra dynamic that he brings to the game. Like, look, LeBron just doesn't have anything over MJ like that. And I don't feel like MJ necessarily has like these just like big thing where it's like, okay, Mahomes clearly has this dynamic to the game that Brady doesn't have. And he also has all of the resume stuff and all of the dominance, and he's doing it earlier in his career. So the Brady thing is close, but like you're saying, he's already jumped all of these like elite guys. I guess how many even guys have more Super Bowls than him at this point? It's just like Bradshaw, Montana has 4. I guess Aikman has 3.
Elway has
2.
Elway has 2, yeah.
Manning just has the 2, right?
Manning has 2. Both Mannings have 2.
Both Mannings have 2.
Yep.
Mahomes is better than the collective Manning family?
I mean, yeah. I like Peyton Manning's like my favorite player of all time, but there's no debating it at this rate. There's no debating it at this point. Like even the year where the Broncos won the Super Bowl, like that offense was extremely good in the regular season, but that playoff run was straight defense.
So what if you could put the Manning offense, like peak Manning offense, on a peak Denver? Like if you took the prime Manning offense on that Denver defense, so then that way you had like the good memory of them together. Would it be different at all? Like if you got to see just peak Manning win the Super Bowl in Denver, peak of his powers, versus like you're saying that last Super Bowl, I feel like he's like it's like a 50% ring. That's tough to say. Manning's my guy. I take it back.
Yeah, because what year? The
16?
Broncos Manning offense, and I think it was 2013.
I think so, yeah.
No, the year that their offense, I think they had like 7,200 offensive yards, and it was somewhere between 2012 and 2015. Obviously, he broke the single season passing touchdown record. That offense was the best offense that Peyton Manning's ever been a hold of. Like even combine it with the Colts and everything. Like that was peak offense, and then our peak defense would have been the year we won the Super Bowl.
But the problem is that Super Bowl, it's like it wasn't even, that game was just bad. It was just a bad game.
Yeah, it was like 24-10, I think was the final score. It was pretty low scoring.
Again, I don't think you guys got to double. I think you might have been like 8 points in that game.
24-8, 21-8, if something like that.
I think you might have blacked out for the last couple of points. I think it might have been worse.
24-10.
Oh, okay. Okay. So 43-8 against the Seahawks?
Yeah, it's 24-10.
Oh, against the Panthers, yeah, it was
Oh, that was
24-10.
Seahawks.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. The
yeah. I don't want
Seahawks
to talk
game.
about that game. Was over. Like, you don't remember at first play, snap goes over Manning's head. It goes for safety.
Honestly, outside
Like
of the,
that play was over. That game was over on first play.
if you just take away the 2 interceptions, 69%, 280 yards. So if he's clear, I mean, you said he's number 2, but you're just throwing Montana to the side like that. No love for the original Joe Cool.
Montana has never been higher than Peyton Manning in my book. I don't give a fuck.
I was looking at some of the all-time stats, obviously because of the Mahomes thing, and Montana does have the highest passer rating in Super Bowls, which is impressive. I mean, been there 4 times, won all 4 of them, and again was impressive in all 4 of them, which I think is again an underrated hard thing to do. Like from a passer rating standpoint, just for all of the numbers to kind of line up and for everything to be efficient. Like even Mahomes in this game, for as good as he was, the passer rating itself was, I think, like a 99. Again, he had the pick in there. There was some missed throws. Yeah. There was that intentional grounding at one point where he tries to like roll out. Nobody's really open. 2-hand throw to the sideline.
Is that technically illegal grounding?
I didn't think it was. I thought if you were outside the tackle box, it didn't necessarily have to get back to the line of scrimmage, but I could be wrong about that. Slide in the DMs. Yeah. If you're a ref, slide in our DMs.
I thought that too, but then like, because I know that an aspect of that is like if the ball doesn't make it back to the line of scrimmage, it is. But he was outside of the tackle box,
and there was also a receiver in the area too. Noah Gray maybe, or Bell, one of the backup tight ends. He was like running over.
Yeah, like 3 or 4 yards, like down from the ball. I feel like that's close enough.
And it's Mahomes. Mahomes not getting the call. It was early enough. I think it was like one of their first NFL. 3 drives. Maybe they were like, okay, we're going to get a Mahomes call in here. Yeah. Get it out of the way early. We don't want to flag him late.
But the good thing, though, about this game, like you can't say that like the Chiefs got all the calls because it was pretty even. Like
I was just going to say that, yeah. Even. I was going to say that. I think the officiating overall was pretty good. There wasn't like a Mahomes slide on anything where there was like a flag. Yeah. I guess nothing really there was never really got put in that position. Pause, but there was no crazy flags. Like that McDuffie play, again, to Debo, no PI. They kind of just let him play it out. Good defense.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just a shout out to the teams too for playing a good game. But
playing clean.
Or maybe who was doing this? Who reffed the game? Was that Vinovich?
I think so.
Is he go to the top of our ref rankings now, number 1?
He's been pretty high up there for a while though.
I mean, he was doing the Super Bowl, so maybe that's a dead giveaway that he should be
that was his 3rd Super Bowl, I think.
And I think they said he also did the last Chiefs-Niners game. So will he do the rematch next year? Is that what we're going to get? Chiefs-Niners?
Yeah, he did Chiefs-Niners, and then he did Patriots-Seahawks.
That's 49. Another iconic game. That was a good game as well, too. Not a game where you're like, okay, there was any big penalties in that game. Wasn't there a penalty last year at the end of the game? Was it a defensive penalty on the Eagles?
The hold or the pass interference that never got called.
Oh, it didn't get. There was a no call. Okay.
I think it was a no call.
I do remember that there was some.
Or it was a hold or a bad hold on the defense. It was something like that.
What's the play? I feel like the play that I remember most from the Eagles would be probably the fumble. I think for some reason it's the Jalen Hurts fumble for that game.
Oh, yeah. No, mine was definitely I think it was a hold that they called on, I think it was Slay on Juju.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
They called a hold where there was no like actual like grab, like it was just like his hand like on his hip with no pull.
Mm-hmm.
And they still called it. I think that was the uproar.
And wasn't it? It wasn't even that far down the field, right? It wasn't like a deep pass. It's not like they were sending like Juju on deep routes.
They were in the red zone. It was like a 10-yard out or something like that.
Was it a 3rd down?
It was it was either a 3rd or a 4th, definitely. Because like that kind of call doesn't get that uproar if it's not like an important down.
So if Mahomes is already the number 2 quarterback of all time, and I don't even know like big picture in the league right now, if anybody like how many levels are even between him and the next closest guy. Like, how does anybody else win the MVP next year?
Um, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it just like I don't know, because like
Because
Mahomes, he won the Super Bowl MVP. Obviously, Lamar won the regular season. So it just depends on like if like this year Patrick Mahomes really channeled his inner Tom Brady, like kind of being just like slightly above mid in the regular season, and then just like turning it on in the playoffs. Whereas like Tom Brady did the same shit. Like he was like there were a couple seasons where like holy shit, this guy's not even top 10 in the NFL, and then you put him in the playoffs and he'll go and win every single game.
and in the games too, it felt like there were moments where the other teams could have, like in the Ravens game, if Zay Flowers doesn't fumble, if Lamar doesn't throw the pick, in this Niners game, they had their question marks. In all the games, there's these moments where the other team could have capitalized and they didn't. It's like the Chiefs
Yeah.
play mistake free football, were the better team. The experience at this point too, just I think that's just kind of what it is. I think too, just these guys end up getting so many reps in the playoffs at this point. They get so comfortable in these moments. It's like it's just another. Mahomes is going to go into next year's playoffs. It's just going to be another thing for him at this. He's been in like I think they said 17. He's played a full season extra worth of playoff games at this point. Just under his
He's
belt.
what, 15-2?
Yeah, he's like the best season of all time in the
It's
playoffs.
insane.
And I'm trying to think too, like the one year, if they don't get the year that they don't get to the Super Bowl, his rookie year, is that offside penalty from D Ford. It's like not even really his fault.
Yeah.
So I mean, in that Bengals season, if they get that, if they kick the field goal in the red zone at the end of the first half or end up getting that touchdown, who knows
Yeah, and
what
if
that
they
game ended up
don't
look
have
like.
that late hit,
Yeah,
if they don't
that
have the late hit late in the game too. Yeah.
Mahomes does throw the pick in overtime too on the deep pass. So maybe that is the one that you can end up chalking up to Mahomes. But yeah, to be pretty perfect through the first 6 years like this is pretty crazy. Did you want to mention anything about the halftime show at all?